I never thought I'd be the kind of guy who'd find himself in a situation like this. I mean, I always believed in the American dream: a good job, a nice house, a loving wife. Megan and I had been together for almost 8 years. We met in college and everything seemed perfect at first. She was smart, funny, and seemed genuinely into me. We got married 3 years ago and I thought we were building a good life. But lately, I started noticing little things that didn't sit right. It all started about 4 months ago. Megan became more distant. She'd come home late from work, excuse herself a lot, and when I asked about it, she'd brush it off, call me paranoid. She'd say she was just busy or stressed. Her phone started ringing in the middle of the night and she'd quickly hide it or turn off notifications. Once, I saw her slip her phone into her purse when I walked into the room and her face went pale. But I didn't push. I figured I was imagining things. Maybe she was just tired or overworked. Then, she started changing her schedule, claiming she had to meet with clients or go to meetings after hours. She'd leave the house with her purse and laptop bag, but I'd notice she'd come back looking exhausted, sometimes a little flushed and a lot more secretive. She'd lie about where she'd been and I'd catch her in little inconsistencies, like forgetting what she told me or changing the story. I didn't want to believe it was something serious. I wanted to trust her. Still, the nagging feeling was there, creeping in my mind. One night, I decided to check her phone just for peace of mind. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't shake the suspicion. I figured I'd see some harmless texts or maybe some work emails. Instead, I found a string of messages from an unknown number. At first, I thought it was just a coworker or a client. But then I saw what they were talking about. It was clear they'd been meeting late at night at hotels, sometimes even at our place when I wasn't home. The messages were flirtatious, suggestive, and downright intimate. I couldn't believe my eyes. My stomach clenched. My heart pounded like crazy. I kept reading, trying to convince myself it was some kind of mistake, maybe a joke. But the messages kept confirming what I suspected. Megan was cheating on me with our immigration attorney, a guy who had been handling our citizenship process, Carlos. I felt like my world was crumbling. How could she be so careless? How could she lie so effortlessly? And the worst part, she was cheating with the guy we trusted to help us build a new life here. It was like the worst betrayal I could imagine. I didn't confront her that night. Instead, I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to process what I'd seen. My mind was racing, anger bubbling under my skin. I wanted to scream, to break something, but I knew I had to keep it together. I just kept thinking, how long has this been going on? How many nights has she been sneaking around? And what was she doing with him? Were they having sex? Did she love him? Or was it just some sick game? The questions kept pounding at me, and I felt more lost than I ever had. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't keep living like this, not knowing if the woman I loved had been lying to me this whole time. But I also knew that the moment I uncovered her secret, everything was going to change. I had to decide what to do next. But one thing was clear. I was done trusting her blindly. Megan had become someone I didn't recognize. Someone who could betray everything we'd built without batting an eye. I was angry, hurt, embarrassed, and more than anything, I was furious that she'd lied to my face for so long. The next day, I couldn't focus on anything. It was like my mind was stuck in a loop, replaying the messages I found and imagining what she was doing with Carlos behind my back. I kept thinking about all the times she had dismissed my concerns, brushed me off, or snapped at me when I tried to bring up her strange behavior. I started to see her in a different light, more like a stranger than my wife. I also knew I couldn't keep quiet about this anymore. I had to confront her, but I wanted to do it carefully, strategically. That evening, I made sure I was home early, pretending to be just as normal as I had been all along. Megan was in the living room, flipping through her phone, her usual bitchy attitude on full display. She looked up when I walked in, her face changing for a split second, like she already knew what I knew. I took a deep breath, feeling the anger simmer beneath my skin. "I need to talk to you," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She rolled her eyes but nodded. "What now?" I looked her directly in the eyes. "I saw your messages, Megan. I know you've been meeting Carlos. I know you've been cheating. I saw the texts, all of it." Her eyes widened, but that bitchy smirk quickly replaced her shock. "Oh, come on, you're jumping to conclusions. You're crazy, completely paranoid. You always think the worst." Maybe I've been working late, or maybe I just have a life outside of you. You think I'm stupid?" I shook my head, trying to process how she could be so indifferent, so dismissive. "Don't lie to me. I saw everything. The hotel meetings, the late-night texts. You've been lying to my face for months. How long has this been going on?" She scoffed, crossing her arms. "Honestly, you're overreacting. It's just sex, okay? Nothing serious. Carlos is just a guy I talk to sometimes. You're making a big deal out of nothing. You're so insecure, it's pathetic." That wasn't just an insult, it was a slap in the face. I could feel my fists clenched, but I forced myself to stay calm. "You think I'm insecure? You're the one cheating and you call me pathetic. How long has this been going on? Don't lie." She looked away for a second, then shrugged. "Look, I don't owe you an explanation. I don't have to justify myself. I'm not some perfect wife, all right? I get bored. Carlos is just a distraction, that's all. Sex with him is good, and I don't see why I should feel guilty about it." My stomach turned. I was furious, but I also felt a deep ache of betrayal. How could she be so callous, so indifferent to what this was doing to me? I wanted to scream, to shake her until she saw how much she was hurting me. But instead, I just stared at her, waiting for her to say something more, to explain herself better. She didn't. "I need some time to think about this," I said finally, voice trembling. "You're not the person I thought you were, Megan. I don't know what to say right now, but I can't keep pretending everything, all right?" She rolled her eyes again. "Fine, do whatever you want, but I'm not giving you some sob story. I'm not going to apologize for wanting to be happy. Maybe you should consider that you're just not enough anymore." That was a clear shot at my ego, and it stung worse than any punch. I left the room feeling numb, a jumble of rage, sadness, and disbelief. I knew I had to decide what to do next, but my mind was spinning. Part of me wanted to lash out, throw her out, destroy anything that reminded me of her betrayal. Another part just wanted to run away from the whole thing and pretend it never happened. In the days that followed, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, smug and uncaring, and I felt the sting of her lies. I started digging deeper, trying to find out more about Carlos, about her meetings, about what kind of person she had become. I needed to understand how she could do this, how she could betray me so easily, and I especially needed to figure out if there was a way to make her pay for it. Because at this point, I was absolutely certain I didn't want to stay with someone who could lie to my face and cheat with a man I trusted. That's when I decided I couldn't let her get away with it. I had to do something, and fast. I didn't know what yet: revenge, confrontation, maybe even just walking away. But I knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot. Over the next few days, I kept my distance, but I couldn't stop thinking about how to handle this. Part of me wanted to confront Carlos, find out exactly when and where they'd been meeting, and maybe even see if I could catch them in the act somehow. But I knew that was too risky, too impulsive. Instead, I decided to gather more evidence, just in case I needed it later. I started monitoring her phone, her schedule, her movements more carefully. I even set up a camera in the living room, pointed at the doorway to see if she'd slip up or reveal some clue of where she was sneaking off to. What I didn't expect was how quickly she started to crack. About a week after I confronted her, she snapped at me during breakfast, saying I was crazy for spying and paranoid. She dismissed my concerns like they were nothing, but I could see her eyes darting around, nervous. That told me she knew I was onto something. I'd also found a few hotel receipts hidden in her purse, small details, but enough to make me suspicious she'd been meeting Carlos even when she claimed she was working late. I kept quiet about that, wanting to see how far she'd go before she slipped up. One afternoon, I finally got a break. I was at work, and I received a notification from my security app. There, on the footage from our front door camera, I saw her leaving the house at around 11 p.m. with her purse and keys, slipping into her car. Her face looked tense, her eyes darting around like someone was watching her. That was the moment I knew I had her. She was sneaking around, hiding something, and I had enough proof to shut her down. I decided I couldn't let her keep playing her game. I needed to confront her again, but this time I was ready. I waited until she came home that night, just like I'd planned. When she stepped inside, I blocked her way, my heart pounding. She looked surprised, maybe even a little scared. I didn't say much at first. I just pulled out the evidence, the hotel receipts, the security footage, the messages I'd saved on my phone. Her face turned white. "Tell me the truth," I said, voice cold and steady. "Where have you been? Who have you been with?" Her eyes flicked away, but I pressed harder. "I saw you leaving the house at 11 last night. The hotel receipts in your purse. The messages from Carlos. Don't lie to me anymore." She scoffed, trying to keep her composure. "You're overreacting. That's all you've got. You're just insecure. It's none of your business." "No, Megan," I said, voice rising. "It's my business when I find you sneaking around behind my back. I've had enough of your lies. I want the truth now, or I swear this ends tonight." She hesitated for a second, then started to spin her usual web of bullshit. "It's nothing, just some stupid flirtation. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Carlos is just a guy I talk to sometimes, when I'm bored. It's not a big deal. We haven't even had sex." I couldn't believe her. That was her excuse, that she was just bored so she cheated, that she didn't mean anything. I felt the rage bubbling over, but I kept my voice calm. "You lied to my face again. You've been sleeping with him, haven't you? It's not just talking. I know what I saw, what I've uncovered, so don't give me that bullshit." At that point, she started crying, fake tears, I guessed, and tried to manipulate me. "You're overreacting. You don't understand what I was going through. I was stressed, and Carlos just made me feel alive again. I didn't want to hurt you, honest. I just didn't know how to tell you." I stared at her, disgusted. The woman I married, the woman I trusted, was a liar and a cheat. And now she was crying crocodile tears, trying to make me feel guilty. I decided then and there that enough was enough. I told her to leave, to get out of my house, and I didn't want to see her face again until she figured out what she really wanted. That night I slept on the couch, feeling exhausted and hollow. The betrayal hit me harder than I'd ever imagined. All those years I thought I knew her, loved her. Turns out it was all a lie. She had been lying, cheating, manipulating me for months. The numbness started to settle in, mixed with annoying anger that refused to fade. I knew I had to think carefully about my next move, but for now I just wanted her gone. I wanted her to feel some of the pain she'd caused me. And honestly, I already knew I was done trusting her, done pretending everything could be salvaged. The worst part, I kept thinking about how much I had given her. My time, my love, my hopes, and how easily she threw it all away for some meaningless sex with a guy who was supposed to be helping us with our citizenship. That's what fueled my anger most. The fact that she betrayed our dreams just for a moment of selfish pleasure. And I swear I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Not without a fight. The days after she left were the hardest. I'd never felt so empty, so numb. I kept replaying everything in my head, her lies, her dismissive attitude, the way she thought she could get away with it all. It was like a punch in the gut every time I remembered her smug smile when she denied everything. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry at the same time. Honestly, I vacillated between wanting to scream at her or just crawl into a hole and disappear. But I knew I had to act. I couldn't just sit around feeling sorry for myself. I started to plan my next steps carefully, knowing I couldn't trust her anymore. I wanted to make her regret what she'd done, to make her see that her actions had consequences. I wasn't planning to just let her walk away with my life and my dreams shattered. If anything, I wanted to make sure she paid for betraying everything I believed in. First, I reached out to a lawyer friend just to get some legal advice about the divorce process and what rights I had. I wasn't naive. I knew this was going to be messy, emotionally and legally. My main goal was to protect myself, my assets, and any evidence I had gathered, just in case she tried to manipulate or lie her way out of it. I also started secretly gathering more proof, pictures, texts, email exchanges. I wanted her to see that I was serious, that I wasn't just going to take her betrayal lightly. Meanwhile, I started to cut ties with her more completely. No more texts, no more calls. I deleted her number, blocked her on social media, and made sure she couldn't contact me easily. I refused to let her see how much her betrayal had broken me, but inside I was shattered. One night she called me crying, trying to act like she was remorseful. She said she was sorry, that she didn't mean to hurt me, that she loved me and wanted to fix things. I listened, but I didn't believe her. I knew her words were just manipulation. another way to control the situation. I told her that she'd already crossed the line, that trust was broken beyond repair, and that I needed space to think. I told her I'd consider talking to her again, but only when she was ready to be honest, not when she was trying to manipulate me. That phone call was a game changer. It confirmed what I suspected. Her tears and apologies were just her trying to save her own skin, not genuine remorse. I realized I couldn't fix this with words or apologies. She'd already made her choice, and now I had to decide what my next move was going to be. It was clear I couldn't stay in this emotionally wrecked marriage anymore. I needed to figure out if I could forgive her, if I even wanted to, or if I should just cut my losses and move on. Part of me wanted to fight for the marriage, to see if we could salvage it somehow. But deep down, I knew that betrayal like this, especially with someone as crucial as our lawyer, had shattered whatever trust we once had. I couldn't picture myself just forgiving her and pretending. This never happened. Every time I thought about her cheating, I felt a mix of anger and disappointment I knew wouldn't go away easily. So I started making arrangements. I looked into legal options, planned to file for divorce, and began to pack some of my things. I also reached out to a couple of close friends for support, knowing I'd need people to lean on during what I knew would be a long, painful process. I felt like I was walking through a fog, unsure of what the future held, but certain I had to take control of my own life again. And through all this chaos, I kept asking myself, how did I get here? How did the woman I loved so much turn into someone capable of destroying everything we built? I kept replaying our good memories, trying to find some meaning in the mess, but it seemed pointless. The betrayal had cut too deep. It had changed everything forever. All I could do now was take it one day at a time and prepare for the storm that was coming, the divorce, the fallout, maybe even some form of justice. I owed it to myself to get out of this nightmare stronger than when I went in. The legal process moved faster than I expected, probably because I was dead set on ending this chapter of my life as soon as possible. I filed for divorce within a week of her leaving. The paperwork was straightforward but emotionally draining. Every form I filled out felt like a final blow, a formal acknowledgement that my marriage was over, that trust was irreparably broken. I wasn't just ending a relationship. I was severing a part of myself that I'd believed in for so long. In the meantime, I kept my focus on gathering all the evidence I could. I had saved her messages, hotel receipts, the security footage, texts from Carlos, everything that proved her ongoing affair. I knew she'd try to manipulate the situation, spin stories, or deny everything. So I wanted to be ready. I wanted her to see that I was serious, that I had everything documented. I also started to talk to a private investigator, just to confirm some details and make sure I was covering all my bases. Better to be prepared than to be caught off guard. The court date was set about a month after I filed. I remember walking into that courtroom feeling like I was walking into a war zone. I was angry, yes, but also exhausted. I knew I had the truth on my side, and I was determined to make her see that her lies and betrayal had consequences. As I sat there listening to her lawyer try to downplay everything, I felt the rage simmering just below the surface. I had all the proof I needed, and I was ready to put it on display. When it was my turn, I presented my evidence calmly but assertively. I laid out everything, the hotel receipts, the messages, the security footage, my own testimony about her lying and sneaking around. I didn't need to exaggerate. The facts spoke for themselves. I saw her attempt to deny, to deflect, but I was prepared for that too. I knew her game, and I was determined not to let her manipulate her way out of this. The judge listened carefully, and I could tell she was taking everything seriously. When it was over, I felt a flicker of relief, but also a deep sense of finality. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my life, about finally cutting ties with someone who had hurt me so deeply. I signed the divorce papers, knowing that I'd take some time to heal, but that I'd be better off without her. In the following weeks, I began to rebuild myself. I started going to therapy, talking through the betrayal and figuring out how to move forward. I also started focusing on my career again, throwing myself into work as a distraction. But what truly surprised me was how many people reached out: friends, family, even colleagues. They all knew about what happened and they supported me. Some told me I deserved better, some just listened. It was a reminder that I wasn't alone, that I was stronger than I thought. Looking back now, I realize that this whole nightmare taught me some hard lessons. Trust is fragile and betrayal can cut deeper than you imagine. But I also learned that I have resilience, that I can survive even the worst heartbreak and come out the other side. It's not easy and it's not quick, but I will get there. Because deep down, I know I deserve someone who respects me, who values honesty, and who won't throw away everything for some stupid affair with a lawyer. So, to anyone going through something similar, stay strong. Document everything. Trust your gut. And remember, you're not alone. Your worth isn't defined by someone else's betrayal. It's about how you pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep moving forward. After everything was finalized, after I signed the divorce papers and her presence in my life officially ended, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. It's like I had been carrying this enormous weight on my shoulders for months, maybe even years, and now that it was gone, I didn't quite know what to do with myself. There was a silence I'd never experienced before. No more lies, no more betrayal, no more pretending I was okay when I was. It was raw, it was real, and it was finally over. I took some time to reflect on what I'd been through. Honestly, I learned more about myself than I thought possible. I learned that trust is fragile, but resilience is even stronger. I learned that betrayal doesn't define you. What defines you is how you respond to it. I realized I had been giving her too much of myself, hoping she'd change, hoping she'd see what she was risking. But she didn't. And that was her choice. My choice now was to rebuild my life piece by piece on my own terms. The hardest part was confronting how much I'd invested emotionally and how her actions shattered all of it. The pain of feeling foolish, of thinking I was enough, only to find out I wasn't. It cut deep. But I also understood that I couldn't let her betrayal consume me forever. I had to forgive, not necessarily her, but myself, for trusting her so blindly, for ignoring the signs, for believing that people don't change. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they also reveal their true colors when you least expect it. Now I focus on my future. I've started dating again, not rushing into anything, but slowly rebuilding my confidence. I've learned to be cautious, to listen to my instincts, and to value honesty above all. I still think about that time, about the pain, about how a person I loved could turn into someone I barely recognize. But I also think about how I survived it, how I came out stronger, and how I refused to let her define my story. To anyone reading this who might be going through something similar, know that betrayal hurts, but it doesn't have to break you. Take your time, heal, learn from it, and remember your worth isn't tied to someone else's actions. You are enough, no matter how much someone else tries to tell you otherwise. Trust is fragile, but your strength is. Keep moving forward, keep standing tall, and never let someone else's mistake define your happiness. In the end, I realize that life is about resilience, about choosing yourself over the lies and betrayal. And I'm finally choosing to move on, to heal, to grow, and to find happiness again on my own terms. Because I deserve that. We all do.